right, let's do this. Let's hit the books. Part of the Hammer Betting Network, sponsored by FanDuel, alongside the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish. I am Brad Powers, and we're tackling some of the biggest topics for the 2025 college football offseason. And maybe no bigger topic than the defending national champions, the Ohio State Buckeyes, somehow, some way rebounded from that disastrous loss against Michigan in the regular season finale and put together, you could make a case, one of the most impressive 4-game runs in the history of college football to do what they did. I can tell you this, no one had done it before because there had never been a 12-team playoff before, but kudos to the Buckeyes. They win and cover all 4 of those games. They bring home the national championship. Ryan Day gets a little bit of pressure off of him, although I would still say best not lose the Michigan game again because that seat will be right back to being hot again. But obviously, I think the big storyline is going to be a multitude of things with the Buckeyes. I think number one is the talent that is leaving. There is and we're recording this in February, there is a good chance the Buckeyes are going to tie the NFL draft record. 15 guys is what's, easily being projected to get selected in the upcoming NFL draft. Got to replace a ton there. And then as we're taping this is almost breaking news as we're recording this. New defensive coordinator. Might have heard of him. I know you have. Mr. Former Detroit.
I wish I hadn't.
Yeah. Matt Patricia looks like he's the favorite to become the defensive coordinator. I got to tell you, I'm not big time selling that, but I'm certainly selling that Ohio State's going to regress some in 2025. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I know we like to go head-to-head on some of these whenever possible, but I ain't buying. If you love Joey K, the Lion fan, ain't buying Matt Patricia in any way, shape, or form. And I'll tell you what, in this day and age, in college football, I think it's a little tougher to just reload. When you had, when the Bamas and the Georgias and the Ohio States were cooking before all the player movement, you would have, 2-3 guys deep of 4 stars, 5 stars. Now, those guys aren't waiting around as much, and you can pay your front level talent and still recruit, but I think there's going to be a little bit more of a drop off than you'd see from your typical national champion here. And that's not being, a Michigan homer. I think that's just the reality of college football, what we're living in, along with, as you said, I don't love the Matt Patricia hire. I'm sure. I know they tried to get DJ Durkin. They think they were trying to find a few other guys before they got to Patricia. And it was just bad timing in the cycle. A little bit curious of an exit for Jim Knowles, which I know we were talking a little bit about at the end of last season. And then Brian Hartline. What does he have from an offensive, coordinator standpoint as a guy who great recruiter, but you don't know until you're up in that booth making calls if and doing a game plan and a script and all that until you got the goods. And again, they still got their Jeremiah Smith. There'll be no shortage of, what I would call offensive talent on this team, but a team that in a lot of aspects was really carried down the stretch by their defense. And I tell you what, BP, it ain't no cakewalk for the Buckeyes, where they got Texas coming in. At Washington ain't no easy game. At Illinois is not an easy game. Penn State, at Michigan. I'm under here on this 10, and I know this, it was under 10.5.
You mentioned it in one of our final shows because the lines were already up, believe it or not. You were on the under already as we were closing out the season.
I tell you what, a 9-3 season wouldn't surprise me for Ohio State, and I don't know. And I know the fans will jump off. We'll be sitting here talking about his Ryan Day on the hot seat one year after winning a national championship. But I don't know if that's that bad a year. If this team goes 10-2 and gets back to the playoff, I think that's a good season in today's regular season. And so for me, I'm under 10.5 there, and I'm selling the Buckeyes in any type of repeat.
And if it sounds nuts, they went 10-2 last year. And that was with so it's not that crazy. And that was with, a 7-point win against Penn State and a game that everybody has forgotten about. Could have lost the Nebraska game. We're trailing in the fourth quarter against Nebraska. So I know they had 2 close losses against Oregon and Michigan, but still, with all that talent that's leaving them, they were still a 10-2 team. So you're not going to get a disagreement from me. I'm certainly selling the Buckeyes here when it comes to, their ability to repeat in 2025. I'm anxious to see once the markets come out as far as their yes, no, and their playoffs. I mean, right now, yes would be just a slight favorite for me. But, I don't think it's overwhelming that Ohio State's right back in the mix. I'm going to give you, though, I'm not going to feel too sorry. Jeremiah Smith, generational talent at wide
Yep.
receiver still. Make a case that he's the best offensive player in the country.
Yep.
You can make a case that they have still the best defensive player in the country and Caleb Downs at safety. So it's not all poor me. And I'll give you some insight, a little in the weeds here. I wasn't buying Julian Sang when I watched him in person last spring. That was 9 months ago. I got a feed for the national championship game. Like they have all these different camera angles on the field, the all 22. I was watching him in warmups. Julian Sang is going to be pretty good for the Buckeyes. I'm just here to tell you. The way he was throwing it pregame was mighty impressive. I can just tell you that. And I'm wearing the hat, but you know me, I'm not pro Ohio State. I can tell you this. There was more zip on his ball than there was Max. Not Max. Will Howard and obviously the Notre Dame's starting quarterback. So I think they're going to be okay. But I am not buying Ohio State repeating as national champ. They're one of the favorites, but we'll get a good idea week 1.
Yep.
Welcome in the Texas Longhorns. Good chance that might be a 1 versus 2 game as far as the AP poll to start it off. Can't wait for it.
I can't either. And you know what? I'll be interested to see too. If Ohio State maybe goes back to a little early Ryan Day, Brian Hartline of we're going to throw it a little bit more and use our weapons, because I don't think they have the personnel to do the Chip Kelly, run the ground attack so more. And you saw once, how did they win a national championship? They opened it up. They started throwing the football. They passed to open up the run. I'll be interested, and I hope if you're an Ohio State fan that they go back to a little bit more of that open air offense and leverage the key positions that they have at wide receiver and let's say and throw it around a bit.
I also think Ryan Day is going to be a lot more involved in the play calling. I don't know if you're at the point yet you can trust Hartline. Last time we saw Hartline get the co-OC award, he got a little rambunctious on an ATV. So I don't know. Is the trust factor there after a couple of years? We'll see. But you heard it. Both Knish and myself, we're selling the Buckeyes when it comes to their ability to repeat as national champs in 2025. That'll do it for Hit the Books, sponsored by FanDuel. We'll talk to you in the next video.